The sensation of being lost and not fitting in is a common one. Everyone has experienced it in their lives. However, living with that feeling for a large part of life, such as in school, outside of society, in your community, neighborhood, and everywhere, is hard since you don't know the local language and the system. Join ESL students as they share their emotions, experiences, and struggles in the American school system. How they were academically affected by the lack of school guidance. If you want to help the future ESL students improve the ESL program, or simply comprehend what foreign students who don't speak our language have to go through just to fit in, this video is for you.
Introduction. Are programs that presume to help Hispanic students with understanding English classes and graduate beneficial? Reality is that these programs have made it more difficult for them to learn. Either they're not getting proper help or the help they're receiving isn't enough for them to understand the proper curriculum that is asked for them to know. These programs do not fully comprehend the struggle in which these students are in. Students who arrive from other countries are starting at level 1 because of the language barrier, the limited resources, the environmental change, cultural change, and many more aspects that should always be considered by their teachers and the school system itself. We must speak for those who in the past experienced terrible things in the American school system, a change to help the future generation of those few who come looking for better opportunities but find themselves lost. The Department of Education criticizes bilingual programs. In society, it has always been difficult for Hispanic kids to learn the proper curriculum that has been asked of them. This has been going on for the longest time. A few years ago, Dr. William Bennett, who was Secretary of the Department of Education, criticized the bilingual education programs on how they did not teach the English language. The native language was exclusively for instructional purposes and had instructional content composed of only learning the culture of the native language. Interviews with students who have personal stories to tell. We have 3 different cases that occurred when schools believed that their ESL program was helping Spanish students, but only made it more difficult for them to comprehend the curriculum that was being taught at the time. 2 stories taking place 2017, and the other story is from the year 1993. We compare the stories of the 2 girls from 2017 and the boy from 1993 to understand how much the American school system has changed to try to improve over the years or if it has failed those students. Intro to Juliana Ibergen's personal experience in the American education system. The story of a Colombian girl, Juliana Ibergen, begins when she was going to start attending the 7th grade. A difficult transition, if you can imagine. A middle school girl with no English comprehension, no idea of how the schools work, no friends, and no help. So let's get some insight on how she felt entering her first day of middle school with a language barrier. Did she receive the help she needed by the school system? The beginning of Juliana's interview. Hello, Juliana. Can you begin by telling us your story?
Hello. Well, yes, I arrived on February 14th, 2017 to the United States. I started 7th grade 2 days after my registration. I had no idea how the system in this country worked. In Colombia, my birth country, I was in 8th grade, going to 9th grade. I was put in a science class where I had no idea what was going on. Everything was so different than what it was in Colombia. How do you feel when you first entered the classroom without knowing anyone or understanding what was going on?
Well, once I entered the classroom, a group of girls signaled me to sit with them. So I did, and when I got there, they asked me if I spoke Spanish before letting me sit there. Of course, it was the only language I spoke back then. What I did not know was that these girls were not only the type of people to make me feel comfortable with every little thing either they or I did. But they also took advantage of the fact that I did not know English or the school system and asked me many times to do stuff that were supposed to be their job.
What do you learn from these girls to take advantage of you and use you for your knowledge of the English language?
By understanding how the group of girls were to me, I felt the need to get away from toxic friendship and the need to be able to do things by myself, which were only obtained by knowing the system and speaking English. When I realized the students that were not in ESL program had family members that also struggled with English, and that they were accommodated to help them, support them, and that they were showing me the same hospitality, it helped me not to give up, no matter how hard and slow the process felt.
How do you feel being in that situation where you did not know the language very well and needed help?
Many times, I didn't understand either the schoolwork or the lessons. The only teacher I remember I had from ESL was for history. I and almost half of my class were pulled out of the class to have a separate class in Spanish. During the end of my 7th grade, class of 2017, and the beginning of my other 7th grade, class of 2018, which I had to take because I did not have enough credits to move on to 8th grade, I was clueless of what was going on in class.
So my last two questions are, how did this experience affect you in becoming the strong and intelligent person you are now? Second, what realizations do you have after the experience?
I had enough, and I wanted to learn English and be able to understand and do things for myself. The process was long and many times lonely, but with the help of kids that understood my desperation because their parents did not speak English either and felt compassionate, I got through it. To my surprise, when entering 8th grade, I was no longer an ESL student and most of my friends spoke English. I was still very insecure about my English, and still am. But little by little, I had the confidence to completely understand that I worked myself out of the eternal program of ESL. Once I understood the school system and language, I was convinced that the ESL program was lacking something. How was it possible that I, that did not know anything, got out of the program in the middle of a year and a half, when kids had been in the program for up to 3.5 years?
Intro to Yera Marrero's personal experience in the American education system. Next, we have the story of a Puerto Rican girl, Yera Marrero, who came to this country at a young age and had it difficult in getting accustomed to the environment. When starting school, she was put in regular classes, which made it challenging for her to feel like it was okay to not know English, because only few understood what she was going through. Beginning to Yera's interview, do you think the systems are different or similar in Puerto Rico and the United States?
I came from Puerto Rico, which is territory of the United States. And so the systems are very different regarding the school environment, how we learn and what we learn. What we learn is still along the lines of the American model, though teachers get underpaid and many stop caring. Others do care, but then we have limited resources, so it is hard to learn the proper way when we don't have enough supplies. Personally, I feel like the education system in Puerto Rico is very much influenced by politics. The government is very corrupt, and so many schools are low in funds, which is why many of them keep closing. But then again, I'm talking about public schools as private schools are different. They get personal funds, and so they're more advanced academically.
When you first arrived and started attending the school, how did you feel walking into that classroom, not knowing much?
The first day, I was nervous. And I remember when I first walked in, everyone tried to say words in Spanish, which was funny and lit up my mood. Even then, I still felt weird, like an outcast. And somehow, even a simple hola sounded weird. I felt out of place. It also was welcoming. And it made me feel better knowing I could speak Spanish with someone. But since I was put in a regular class, there were maximum 3 students that spoke Spanish. ESL program provided me extra time on benchmarks that were still taking English. Also, they only helped me in history, half periods of math and English. I felt isolated from everyone else as I tried to make new friends, but language was a barrier. I started drawing as a distraction, but I was in fact frustrated. Desperate to fit in, desperate to talk proper English, desperate to understand.
Last question for you is, what emotions did you experience during this transition?
For certain classes, I often became motivated as my aspiration kept rising. This led me to struggle in those subjects while I decided to focus on learning English in order to not need help. This is the only reason I learned English quick. But the embarrassment of not pronouncing the words right or when people make fun of my pronunciation was suffocating as it made me self-conscious of my accent. This gave me a lot of social anxiety as I was always scared of messing up. To this day, I still struggle with social anxiety, but it has gotten better as my pronunciation has also improved. ESL can change and become more interacting and entertaining for students, as well as making students feel comfortable with speaking.
Intro to Ciro Luna's personal experience in the American education system. The story of a Mexican boy who came from a small town, lost in this new world where he was promised a better life and more opportunities, where his parents expected a lot from him, where he left behind his friends, family, teachers, freedom, and memories. This story might have been from a couple of years ago, but Ciro's story might sound similar to those of recent Hispanic students. Why is this? Has the system of education not changed? After 24 years, are Hispanics still not receiving the help they need? What was it like being in the American school system without understanding how it worked and without understanding the language?
On my first day of school, I was worried, scared, and nervous because I didn't even know how to get to my classes. I didn't even know that there was a program that I had to follow. I was lucky to find people who already knew how the system worked, and they kindly helped me out. I still had to attend my classes without understanding the language because even though there was a bilingual program, there was not enough classes given in both languages. Since my level of English was so low and the lack of bilingual classes, they put me in a special education class when obviously I did not belong there.
Was the program that was given to you truly helpful, and did you benefit from it?
It did help me to have a better understanding of the English language. It was not until teachers who saw my potential intervened and pushed me to receive more English courses that I truly learned the English language. Those teachers really wanted me to succeed and helped me to the point where within 1 year I was mainstreamed into English-only courses. I was no longer a bilingual student.
What do you believe that the American school system could have done better to help you and other Hispanic students?
I think if they had more courses that would focus on teaching students the English language and not just teaching subjects on our own language, that would have improved our learning.
Argument. There is very little research in the school system that do not help kids. Kids come from countries where they have never spoken English word and then come here and are expected to know how to speak English in a short period of time. Spanish-speaking students have limited resources in school because many believe that those who live in the United States should be completely Americanized, meaning that instructions should only be in English, when in reality, learning a new language is something that takes time. Conclusion and call to action. Schools need to upgrade their programs and provide more help, time, and education to those foreign students. Placing the ESL students at the back of a classroom with a Spanish teacher to help them during their classes does not only affect the students' self-esteem, but also doesn't allow them to interact with the teacher at the front of the class. ESL learners need to be treated equal in their schools. They must receive the same art and sport programs, technology programs, after-school programs, and treated equal between students. There is a lack in the language development because these programs aren't as helpful as they should be. And that is why we must advocate and translate their desperate words asking for help.
This project was very informational and helpful for all of us. Our main goal was to take an approach on the limited resources Hispanic students have in school. As we researched, we found a lot of crucial data as well as stories. We were able to relate to those who had similar experiences to us and learned that the American education system has not changed through the years for those Hispanic students who are seeking a better opportunity. People should be aware that these stories are from personal experiences from all of us or from someone close to us, so this topic is very important as it hits close to home. While our perspective might be seen as biased, most of us experience the system itself, and there is no more valid insight than from first-hand evidence.